This video is about absolute value and order of operations. So we're going to use computations with addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, absolute value, and exponents. So first we need to talk about what absolute value is. Absolute value is the distance a number is away from zero, both in the negative and positive direction. So remember that distance is always going to be measured as a positive. Therefore, the absolute value of a number is always going to be positive. So remember that distance is positive because we say if we're traveling somewhere, we're going a certain number of miles or a certain number of feet or yards. It's always a positive number. We don't talk about going -5 miles somewhere. Okay. The symbol for absolute value is two bars that are straight up and down, and there's going to be a number in between them. So number one, the absolute value of 10 means how many units is 10 away from 0? So if I counted from 10 to 0, we know it's 10 spaces away. So we're just taking that positive number. -15, the absolute value of -15 means that -15 is how far away from 0. So again, that's 15. So it doesn't matter if it was in the negative or the positive direction. It's going to come out as a positive answer always. So evaluate the following. Number 3, we have the absolute value of 18, which is just 18. Number 4, the absolute value of -21 is positive 21. Now, number 5 is a little bit tricky because there's a negative out front. So if it's a negative out front, it's really -1 times the absolute value of 50. So we have -1 times 50, which is -50. Number 6, the absolute value of 0. Well, the distance from 0 is just 0, so our absolute value is 0. Now, 7, 8, and 9, there's a little bit of order of operations involved. So first we need to figure out the number inside the absolute value in number 7. So 13 minus 3 is 10, plus 5 is 15. So we have negative absolute value of 15, which remember is -1 times the absolute value of 15. The absolute value of 15 is 15, and we multiply by -1, we get -15. 8, we have negative absolute value of -9 plus the absolute value of -17. So -1 times the absolute value of -9 is -1 times 9, which is -9, plus the absolute value of -17 is just 17. So we have -9 plus 17, which gets us 8. Number 9, 81 is not in the absolute value, so it just stays as 81. 15 minus 19 is -4. The absolute value of -4 is just 4. So 81 minus 4 gets us 77. Now the other part of this video is order of operations. So order of operations, you have to use the correct order to evaluate an expression. This order is called the order of operations. So we use the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," or PEMDAS, to help us remember the order of operations. So P is always going to stand for your parentheses or all of your grouping symbols. So this is going to include parentheses or brackets or even our absolute value bars. E stands for exponents. So those are those little powers written above numbers sometimes. Then the third step is multiply and divide. They have the same preference, so we're going to do those from left to right. So we have multiply and divide. And then the last thing that we have is adding and subtracting. So when we have operations that have the same priority, so multiplying or dividing, or adding and subtracting, we're going to do those from left to right. So let's look at the left to right rule with a couple examples. So in number 11, we have 18 minus 5 plus 6. So the first operation we come across is subtraction. So we're going to do 18 minus 5, which gets us 13, plus 6, gets us 19. You have to do it in the order from left to right. Number 12, the first thing we come across is multiplication. So 2 times 12 is 24. And then divided by 3 gets us 8. So let's use the order of operations for the following expression. So in number 13, we have the square root of 81 minus 28 divided by 4. So negative, or the square root of 81, that's going to be like a grouping symbol, so we have to do that first. We need to take the square root of 81, which is 9. So we get 9 minus 28 divided by 4. So we did our P, which was the parentheses and the grouping symbols. Next is any exponents, which we don't have. Next is multiply and divide. So we see a division step there, 28 divided by 4. So now we have 9 minus 7, and then we can subtract to get 2. Number 14, 2 minus 3 times the absolute value of negative 4 minus 6 plus 2 times negative 5 squared. So the first thing we're going to do is our grouping symbol here of this absolute value. So negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10, and the absolute value is positive 10. So we have 2 minus 3 times 10 plus 2 times negative 5 squared. Now the next thing we're going to do is our exponent with the negative 5 squared. So negative 5 squared, remember, is negative 5 times negative 5. So that gets us 25. So we now have 2 minus 3 times 10 plus 2 times 25. So when we multiply, there's 2 multiplications here, so we're going to go from left to right first. So we're going to do this one, 3 minus 10 first, so we get 2 minus 30 plus 2 times 25. Now we can multiply 2 times 25, 2 minus 30 plus 50. Now there's addition and subtraction left, so we're going to go from left to right to complete that. So 2 minus 30 is negative 28 plus 50 gets us 22. 15. This is the fraction which helps us a little bit later on as we start going through this problem. So we don't see any grouping symbols. We do see an exponent. So we're going to use that exponent first. So negative 5 squared again is 25. So we have negative 3 times 4, 2 minus 25 times 3. Now, in the top of the fraction, there's a multiplication, and in the bottom of the fraction, there's a multiplication. We can do both of those at the same time, so negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and then 2 minus 25 times 3 is 75. Last, we can do our subtraction, so we get negative 12 over negative 73. Now, both of those numbers don't have anything in common to divide by, but they're both negative, so we can turn them into positives. 16, we have 1/5 parentheses negative 2 squared plus the absolute value of negative 19 plus 2 minus 3 times negative 12. So first we're going to do our grouping symbol in here. Negative 2 squared. Remember, it's not in parentheses, so we're just squaring the 2, which is 4, minus, so we have negative 4 plus the absolute value of negative 19 is 19. So when we add those together, we're going to get 15. So we have 1/5 times 15 plus 2 minus 3 times negative 12. So when we multiply, 1/5 of 15 is 3. So 3 plus 2 minus 3 times negative 12. So next we're going to multiply. We're going to keep that negative with the 3. So negative 3 times 12 is 36. So we now have 3 plus 2 plus 36 because the two negatives made a positive. And then we can add from left to right. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Plus 36 gets us 41. Now, when we're evaluating sometimes, we're going to have problems that have a variable that they want us to substitute in for. So when we do that, remember that we need to use parentheses in order to substitute our values in. Remember that we need to follow PEMDAS. So in number 13, wherever we see an X, we're going to put in 4. So when I substitute, we have 3, parenthesis, 4 squared plus 1. So our first step is the exponent, 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. So we have 3 times 16 plus 1. 3 times 16 is 48, plus 1 gets us 49. Number 18, we need to again substitute in for x. So we're going to substitute negative 4 in place of x. So when we do that, we have 1 minus 32 divided by parentheses negative 4 squared. Remember, it's important to put in parentheses because when I go to square this now, it's negative 4 squared. So negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So we have 1 minus 32 divided by 16. The order of operations, our division is next. So 32 divided by 16 is 2. 1 minus 2 gets us negative 1. Number 19, we need to substitute 6 in place of where we see an x. So we have 2 absolute value 6 minus 4 plus 5 times the absolute value of negative 4. So in the first absolute value, 6 minus 4 is 2, so we have 2 times 2 plus 5 times the absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. Then we're going to multiply, so we're going to do the first multiplication. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 5 times 4. Remember, we need to multiply the 5 and the 4 first, so we get 20. We add those together, our final answer is 24. In number 21, we substitute. We have 2 times the absolute value of 3 times negative 4 minus 2 plus 6. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, minus 2 is negative 14. When we take the absolute value, we get positive 14. So 2 times 14 plus 6. So 2 times 14 is 28 plus 6. 28 plus 6 gets us 34.